Greetings to our Leveled Perspectives family. My name is Umlondi Wakwabengu. You might be wondering what this Leveled Perspectives podcast is about. We are about to unpack university life struggles for both students and staff members, and also highlight the challenges that students and staff members face within the university system. Today, we have the pleasure and we are joined by Dr. Ruby Ann Levendal from the Transformation Office at Nelson Mandela University. Doc, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Mulundi. And thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much for joining us, Doc. You are the director of the Transformation Office at Nelson Mandela University. Briefly tell us what this office is about and what are some of the key roles this office holds.
Well, our mandate is really to advance social inclusion and promote equality within the university among staff and students, develop policies that speaks to that, and then also obviously complaint mechanisms that would result when these transgressions that occur within that kind of space. And then we also have the institutional transformation plan that needs oversight and reporting on. So our office also is involved in that as well.
You are very much involved in student life matters, policy development, research, trying to find mechanisms to tackle some of the matters that students face. And one of the challenges that I want us to highlight is a challenge that we saw in a report that came from ENCA last year, highlighting the rate of sexual harassment within higher institution and learning, particularly at Nelson Mandela University and other universities. When did we get here? How did we get here?
I think that this has been a challenge within society. As the president had said, I think it was in 2015, that this is the second pandemic. Essentially, it's a scourge across our society, irrespective of class or ethnic group or whatever, gender even. And so what we are seeing within the university is really a manifestation of what is happening outside within society. Exactly. And it is significant in terms of the complexity of what is being experienced, because there's a number of factors that, it's like a perfect storm, if one could call it that, where a number of factors converge, and you have these expressions, of which gender-based violence would be one of them. As you know, discrimination is still rife as well, because of the manner in which it had been legitimized via the apartheid regime, and the impact and effects of that is still being felt and lived on a daily basis. I think together with that is also internalized inferiority because of the psychological effect and the propaganda machine that was that effective in terms of the apartheid regime.
There are societal norms that I think we still need to work on so much, and barriers that need to be broken down, conversations that need to be had in order for our societies to be educated about the phenomenon of gender-based violence, because it really does not start at university. At the first step of socialization for any child at any age, the family, it is the most critical place of socialization for the child. Tell us about the importance of having that socialization system a good one.
Yeah, absolute importance, because if one looks at your family unit, and I think that is also part of the challenge, is that the family unit has also disintegrated. So in terms of that, I would say, dysfunction within society, the examples that are therefore being provided is not necessarily the ideal as far as the family unit is concerned. The values that is being propagated within our socialization also comes into question. I'm just thinking, this is such a taboo subject in terms of cultural practices where females are not valued as much as males are. And I think that is part of the patriarchal society that we are living in, but there are also cultural practices that perpetuates that as well, which it should definitely be challenged. But I raised this at one of our senior students training sessions, and this one gentleman, the male student, actually said, "It is all good and well for us to speak about it, but culturally, when you go back into your home environment, there is that respect and not necessarily being permitted even to question the elder, because that is just how it is." But then I indicated that yes, it might be like that within, in terms of practice. I'm not saying be disrespectful to the elders, but as you, as a young person, are growing up and you will probably have your own family, you don't necessarily have to perpetuate what you have been taught. And so to make a difference within the lives that you are going to impact. So starting with yourself and, living the way in which you would like your children to experience.
I think that just highlights the importance of leaving society and coming back to contribute positively to society, So we sometimes see this surge of student leaders exploiting students or using the roles that they hold within the university communities in a wrongful manner, in a wrong way, where they abuse their power. What are the policies that really govern student leaders from sexual exploitation? Some of them even ask for sexual favors from students, particularly first years. A lot of parents are sending their students to university right now with the hope that the child is going to come back a better and educated person. But sometimes the students really go through some of these things. What are the policies that govern us?
Yeah. So we do have policies in place specifically, firstly, in terms of promoting inclusivity, promoting equality, right? So that deals with discriminatory behavior. But if one looks at gender-based violence, if one looks at sexual exploitation, sexual assault, rape, sexual harassment, that needs to be dealt with in a very specific way. So we do have a policy that deals with that. But I must just say that it's not only student leaders, to be very honest with you. And most of the time, let's say, the SRCs contest from a political perspective, the political student societies or organizations, they come and contest the SRC, but they are also exposed to examples outside, in terms of emulating those type of examples, which for me is extremely toxic as well. You've got the way in which leadership within political circles have a way of, you have to prove your worth. There's this ice boy phenomenon where there's a pecking order and your worth is proven by subjecting the person to basically being a lackey, and that somehow gets replicated by your political organizations or student organizations, and you have it being effected within the university environment. But as I've said, it's not only student leaders or senior students. You're having adults, not that they are not adults, but external individuals who are economically able, let's say economically abled adults, that exploits vulnerable individuals, either economically vulnerable or individuals that I would say would want a softer life, and so they exploit those needs or wants and provide such, but at a cost, at a significant cost to the students involved. So that is also somehow it has become an accepted norm within society, where you have older men that are exploiting young females, setting them up with apartments or cars or whatever it is that the need is or the agreement is in terms of exchange for sexual favors, and some individuals that are economically vulnerable, they don't have any other option, and therefore they are caught up in these situationships that really is detrimental to them, So, and what is being done? It is known within the broader society, but people are not being prosecuted, and called out for what they are. They are sexual exploiters.
I just want to highlight that this not only happens within university systems, it happens in the broader society, in our communities, not even only in the university community. Probably in growing up, I've seen it happening even in our high schools, in our age mates. So it's really a matter of dismantling that phenomenon within society. We've termed it Tinama 2K. We call it now amablesa. It's people that provide all these luxury assets for students. It could be money. It could be access to wherever you want to be, as long as there is a transactional relationship then with that person. I'd also like to highlight the fact that it is not only from older males to females, it also comes in a form from older females to
Correct.
younger males.
The Ben 10s.
Or Ben 10. We also have names such as those. I remember when I came to university, my parents' main concern was the fact that chances are I'd be bullied. I had already experienced bullying in high school. I'd be bullied. Secondly, because maybe of economic imbalance, we are just able to afford what we can afford. But my mom knows the person that I am. I love independence. So she knew that I would go out of my way to make sure that I fend for myself. And not every student is like me. Some students give into these blessers and sugar mamas. What can be done within society? How can we dismantle it from society? I think it's a really huge issue.
Yeah, for me, the underlying issue is the inequality within our society. South Africa has and remains the most unequal society. So by reducing that level of inequality between the haves and the have-nots, by providing opportunities to earn a decent living, the growth in the economy that would enable youth to have jobs, or even adults to have jobs and not get to, I would say, 50% unemployment, because currently the unemployment rate, official unemployment rate, is about 42%. But really 1 in 2 individuals are unemployed. Our province is one of those that are the most economically, I wouldn't say unstable, but deprived in terms of development. You find that individuals cannot get jobs here, and so they have to leave to other provinces that are actually thriving or performing better. So the level of inequality is a significant contributor of this dynamic that is playing itself out within society, whether and it is based on economic power that is playing itself out, whether it be the sugar mamas or the Amma blessers, and I think for both it is really a travesty that individuals that can afford are using the money not in a constructive way, but in a way that they are exploiting those individuals that are in need.
That is exactly what we are unpacking right here on Leveled Perspectives. We want to sensitize both students within university system and the staff members, not leaving out the parents of the students that they sent out to university. If you're new here, we're all new. This is the first episode. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to our TikTok. It's Leveled Perspectives with the hashtag Memeza. We encourage people to raise their voice against sexual offenses, sexual harassment, and anything that might make you feel uncomfortable or belittle your human rights. Moving on to the matter of consent, which is a huge issue. Again, not only within the university communities, even outside of the university community, we see things such as rape, grooming, sexual exploitation. Again, we're seeing the rise of sex work, and really that also comes into the matter of consent. Can we unpack?
Okay, so you were mentioning the rise in sex work. I think what we spoke about earlier on, the lack of employment, the levels of inequality, significant levels of inequality are driving people to opt for something that they may not have wanted to do, but now opt for a profession where they can, their bodies are part of the transaction or generating income. So in that case, there is a transaction that is taking place and there's money exchange, right? So it is willingly done, freely done with knowledge. There is agreement to what will be done. And I'm actually glad that you brought that in, because it is quite clear. This is what you will get for this amount, right? In the case of interactions, either student on student or any other where there's rape involved, it is not necessarily a matter of lack of understanding. Sometimes, in most cases, rape is about a power play. It's not about the sexual act, but it is the power of being able to do that to somebody else and sort of nullifying their power during that interaction. There are also others where you would have agreement up front, but you've got the right at any point in time to change your mind. And that is not necessarily accepted and forced upon the individual. So with consent, it is a free agreement, clear agreement between the parties involved, right? So it's clear, you know what is going to happen. And when we do training on this, it's not about having agreed up front and then going through whatever is going to happen. You constantly have to check in with the person. Might not, I was going to say your partner, but in some cases not even your partner, but where you constantly check in with the person if you are still okay, and that is what is important. There's also these arguments about, but she or he didn't say no. But there are times where people are in such a state of shock that they either freeze, they start giggling, or they just go into a zombie state. So that still, the silence of the person still does not mean
It
yes.
speaks volumes.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean yes. You know, it's not open to interpretation, and so you must be clear. You know, if you want to continue, the other person needs to be clear as to whether you can or not. And, oh my goodness, not even to talk about when you are inebriated. You know, there's this amazing video that we also introduced to our students as part of orientation, is asking the person if they would like tea. Yes, you know, would you like some tea? And really, if you don't want tea, then you say, no, I don't want tea, you know. And different scenarios. If the person is sleeping, you don't
don't
pour
give
the
them
tea.
tea.
Yes, you don't give them tea.
And if they agreed for the tea in the morning, doesn't
Yes,
mean they want tea
in the afternoon,
afternoon.
the evening. Exactly. So if you had a specific type of interaction on the one day, it doesn't mean that there's agreement for that same type of interaction or any others on the next day or the next, you know. So you need, I think it's very much about communication as well, you know. The other thing, you know, there are certain behaviors where, you know, the signals, oh my goodness, you signaled in a specific way and it was interpreted in a different way, you know. Still ask for clarification. If the girl says no and you think she actually meant sort of yes, you know, I think you need to seek clarification, because then she will be absolute then. If she say no, just don't bother me again, it means don't bother me again. And it's not no, but you can come back and try again at some other time, you know, because then you are harassing the person. So yeah, it's really about being quite clear and communicating.
I think that goes into one of the conversations that we're still going to have within the Leveled Perspectives family, the matter of communication and healthy relationships, the importance of having a good, healthy relationship, highlighting the dynamic of the relationship from male to male, female to female, female to male, male to female as well. We're now going to move into the discussion of support. What kind of support can we expect from our leaders within the university community and beyond the university community as well? What are some of the measures that have been put in place within university for our students and for our staff to make sure that what they did not know before they came to university, they come to the knowledge of it, they know about it, you know? So what are some of the support mechanisms that have been put in place, I know, by the Transformation Office and other various departments to make sure that our students are supported and well trained in such conversations?
Well, so in terms of support, the university provides quite a range. So when a complainant lodges a case, let's say a sexual harassment or sexual offences case, there is psychosocial support that is provided by our office. And if it becomes clear that maybe the student, because the majority of cases are student related, because they are the biggest stakeholder grouping in our university. So I'm going to focus predominantly on that. So if there is perhaps an underlying mental disorder that the student might have, then our counselor, who's also a social worker, would refer that student to a psychologist. And we are really fortunate to have this facility or capability of a group of psychologists, external psychologists, where the student, the GBV survivor, would be beneficiary of up to 8 free sessions, you know, with a psychologist to assist in the psychosocial support. So this is the program that provides this kind of capability is Alumni in Action, and we have been granted donor funding by Ms. Zella Fupe, and she has basically done this because of a previous case that happened at UCT, and has extended it to our institution, and will be extending it to other institutions as well. Yes, so it's a fantastic and a much needed capability. So that is for psychosocial support. If there's medical support that is required in terms of injuries during maybe intimate partner violence and so on, that would then be taken up by the student health services, and they would be supporting that student, providing the necessary care. If it is an emergency, there's also our emergency medical care services that would then take the student to a local hospital, and follow-up treatment will then be done by our student health services. We also have a safe haven, which in the case of like, say, a rape survivor, if that rape had happened within the residence space in their room, you do not want to subject that person to the same environment. So they would then be allowed, after they've gone through the SAPS process and the Tutuzela Care Center, they would then be taken to the safe haven and be allowed to stay there for maximum of 2 weeks, whilst alternative accommodation is looked for. Then also, if the person is maybe needing to write a test or hand in an assignment, our case coordinator would also interface with the academics to ask for academic concession, so that the complainant is not necessarily hassled with that pressure to deal with that whilst they are dealing with this extreme trauma that they are going through.
So you provide a gender-based violence counselor who is also a social worker in her profession. All these services are offered for free from funding that has come through other people.
Well, just in terms of the psychologist, that's the funding. That's a very specific capability that we did not have funding for, and we felt that it was necessary. So when this opportunity arose, we actually we were ecstatic about it. So that's the one that is being funded by Alumni in Action. All the others would be through council funding or strategic resource funding that we acquire.
Okay. There are students who might think that it's not important that I go report a case to the transformation office because maybe I've heard that someone else's case was not solved, or after they tried reporting, they were hunted down or they were threatened by the perpetrators. What can you say to the students? How can we support the students?
So I encourage all students to report their cases, because the person that did this to you, the alleged perpetrator, might also continue doing it to somebody else. So the space is not safe until we investigate it properly. When we do have investigators, specialized investigators that investigate these types of incidents. And then if there is a prima facie case, then that person will be held accountable. And in the case of the avenue which we will take, that would also depend on the complainant. We do not deal with sexual offences via mediation. But sometimes the complainant, it might be intimate partner violence, where they would then ask for mediation with the boyfriend, or it might be the ex-boyfriend at that point in time, where they would want an agreement mediated between the two parties. But definitely to report it, we are really trying. So on our side, we do the support and the investigation and then from there it gets referred, if it's a student related matter, gets referred to legal services. So we are addressing the delay, because what we have found, and what in discussion with legal services, we are finding that students are asking for postponement upon postponement upon postponement, which then impacts on how many cases can actually be dealt with, and it would be on the day that they would come and ask. And that needs to be nipped in the bud, because it is a way of delaying process, and the discipline or whatever the finding might be, and the sanction to then be given. So that is something that will need to be done, because we cannot have delays like 3 times, which impacts definitely on the complainant as well. Some complainants might, you just want to forget about what has happened and really just move on. But you'd be surprised at how this occurrence, the incident, will come up and affect your well-being, whether it is physical, whether it is mental. It will impact, and it will then show in your academic performance as well. And that is why we encourage people, even if they are not ready to take it further, to have it investigated, but to report it so that they can get the appropriate support from within the institution. It's on record. So if at some later stage it shows that it has still impacted your academic performance, you can then ask an appeal, based on the fact that you had attended counseling, but it has still impacted, and that it is on record that this has happened. If there's no record, you don't have any fallback position, So, yeah, encourage reporting, absolutely.
We encourage reporting against gender-based violence. There are a few cases I've heard of from growing up, even seen within the community, of false accusations, and it has ripple effects to the person who is then being victimized. Yes. Please highlight for us the importance of shying away from falsely accusing people.
The harm that person, that it might be a personal vendetta, whatever the rationale is, to make these accusations, the harm that it does, I like you said, it is immense. And so when we investigate cases, right, somebody can be lying to support what it is that they are saying, right? If it is found that that individual has lied, if at some later stage, which has happened, the person comes back and tells us that they have lied, then they are charged as well. And in this case, that individual was expelled because they actually lodged a complaint with vexatious or malicious intent. When you investigate, you expect there to be honesty. So what is reflected by the complainant, by the respondent, would be provided as evidence, and that is what would then carry. But if it is found that there was lying, then there would be very, very grievous consequences to that.
Right. We have an investigator, we have a mediator, a case coordinator, gender-based violence counselor, a social worker within the Transformation Office. Dr. Ruby Ann Levendal is the director of that office. And I might just want to ask this one last question. How did this work start for you? Because I know that it has come so far and you've got so many people involved, but I know that everything has a starting point. How did it start?
Oh my word. So I was sorry, I have to laugh because I always say I'm a hybrid in the system. So I started out as an academic. I'm a physiologist by profession, and then I did I was busy reading for my PhD and became very frustrated because within my work environment, because there wasn't really space for research. Yeah, and got involved with the union and did a master's in conflict and an MPhil in conflict and conflict resolution. And when this position became available, I'm very passionate about social justice and equality. So I applied and I got the position. And at that stage, there wasn't really much as far as transformation was concerned in terms of conceptualization. In policies, nothing. So it sort of evolved from there. And part of the mandate was then obviously advocacy in terms of social inclusion and promoting equality. And gender-based violence obviously falls within that, in that it is it's deemed as unfair discrimination against females, gender, you know. And so that's how we came about.
Started.
Yeah.
And when was this? Which year do you remember?
Well, when I transitioned over into the transformation office was 2007.
Close to 20 years now. Your work is amazing. I just want to say that. And you are such an inspiration to a lot of us who are advocates against gender-based violence, who have seen the effects it has, not only on the individuals, but on the society, on the system as well, on the family, on the relatives, on the loved ones of the victims. You are really a beacon of hope for a lot of us, not only females, for males as well, who advocate for positive masculinity within society. Truly appreciate you, Doc.
Thank you so much, Mlundi, and thank you for this conversation. It was really, good to have and express myself as far as the concerns of, it's really something that we need to work on as a collective within society, because if we don't, not our children, your children will experience the same that we are currently dealing with, and maybe even at another level, which we don't want.
We don't want. I would like to encourage us, in my last lines of this conversation today, you have to report. You can't stay silent. Your voice could be used as someone else's voice in another society, in another community. You could be the encourager, and you could encourage someone else to take action against acts of gender-based violence, acts of sexual exploitation. Yibalilizwi lam, #memeza. Thank you.